All right, Jackie. So thanks for coming on the podcast and for Lisa introducing us. I've looked at your website and all your stuff, but I'd like to know about, like kind of where you grew up, what your background is, and how you got into all the things that you're doing now, because you really got some cool things going on. Not only do you have a really cool candle company, a lot of the magical things that go on it, but you're also a witch, a trained witch, and you have a huge Facebook group and all the things that you're doing. So, but let's go backward and then we'll work into how you got to where you are. Does that make sense?
That sounds great. I mean, you don't know where you're going if you didn't know where you've been.
Good point.
So I grew up in the Detroit area in Michigan,
Okay.
uh, half in the city of Detroit and half in Grosse Pointe, um, which is, a little snobby, a little
Was there a
preppy
movie
over
like
there.
Grosse Pointe something?
Grosse Pointe Blank, yeah.
Yeah. Was that based
It's
on Grosse Pointe, Michigan?
100%. I think it was filmed
Okay.
there too. So I grew up in the 70s and 80s in Grosse Pointe, and with all the pink and green and the alligator shirts and all that other stuff. And I was the weirdo who didn't do all that. And I'm from a family of 9 kids.
Wow.
So it's not the same when you have 1 or 2 kids in Grosse Pointe. When you have 9 kids in Grosse Pointe, yeah, there were no Izod shirts and Madras shorts and stuff like
Right.
that. So from that place, I've always made my own way and always been my own person. And
Where
which
are
is
you in the chain of nine? Are you,
I'm 8 of 9.
so you're way back down. So you had a lot of older siblings and
Hmm.
okay.
And it is when you're in a big family, one of your first things you got to do is figure out who you are. Be unique in your own way, because there's lots of people who are vying for the same attention. Or I really kind of had 7, 8, 9 parents. If you think about it, I had my parents and then the 7 siblings that were older than me. So a lot of people tell me what to do, so that rebel spirit kind of came out from that.
Okay. Yeah. They say after you have 5 or 6 kids, I think the older ones start raising the younger ones, right? Because your
Yeah.
mom's got too much going on.
Well, my business partner at Coventry Creations is my sister, an older sister.
Oh,
She's the
nice.
second oldest,
Okay.
and that has been such a blessing. I mean, we've been sisters and we've been partners for 29 years.
Wow. Okay,
That's a
that's
long
good.
time.
Well, that's a good story because I have a lot of stories for you about family businesses that don't
Yeah,
end too well.
yeah, yeah. It's a challenge, and you can get mad at each other and you still have Thanksgiving, get dinner together. So
Right. That's the
um,
biggest problem, right?
yeah, so you got to make sure you take care of your business.
Yeah.
Um, so in as I was coming into my young adulthood, I ended up marrying a man who was 20 years older than me, which kind of makes sense because everybody was older than me in my life.
Right.
Um, and that didn't last too long. But while I was there, I wanted to make money to go to school.
Okay.
Was not college bound right out of high school. Um, back in '86 when I graduated, there wasn't a lot of funding. You could get maybe a Pell Grant, or maybe if you were an unwed mother, there were some grants,
Right.
and loans for school were not that. They just weren't available
Right.
yet. Predatory lending on for school right now is a different story.
Right.
So I just wanted to make some money to go to college. And that's how Coventry Creation started. I was making candles. I was sewing Ren Fair costumes. I was doing tarot readings. And I didn't think the candle thing would be a big deal, because I mean, you can buy a candle and do it yourself.
I
Or
guess
you,
you could get a jar, put the wax in. I don't know, but you don't know what you're
you could,
doing.
back in '92 when I started Coventry Creations, in the magical practitioner world, and doing being a witch, or all the different things, wanting to take authority over your own life, there was the 7 day candles, the big glass.
Yeah, I
They're
remember
about,
those. Right.
yeah. So those were in different colors, unscented. Sometimes there was pictures screen printed on the glass, and that was pretty much it. Either that, or you had little candles, and then you had to do all this stuff to them to make them magical. You put oils on them and herbs, and maybe you would kind of stab the top of the 7 day glass and put some oil in it to make it magical.
Now, at this point, you're in your 20s, right? Like your
Yeah, it's
early 20s.
24.
So,
That's,
did you, how do you read tarot cards? How did you know this magic? Did you learn? Is something you self studied? You went and studied with a monk and Mongolia? I don't know.
It was self-study. There weren't a lot of stores or a lot of resources, but I have always been fascinated by the spiritual. I had, that list you make when you're a kid. I want to
Yeah,
be a firefighter or
right.
this.
Yours was
So
a little spiritual.
my list was I want to be a teacher or a nun.
Right. But somebody that guides other people and teaches them stuff.
Yeah, so all of those things were always on my list because I love helping people. It
Okay.
might be because I'm a control freak, but
A lot of people are control freaks. They don't end up doing what you're doing. So,
I like to be in other people's business. Maybe it's I'm nosy. Uh, and
Now I
I've
find the
learned how to.
candle, but candles kind of fit into that world, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And
So have you ever heard? So I grew up in New Jersey, but my parents had a house upstate New York in the
okay,
Catskills near
yeah.
Woodstock. And I don't
Mhm.
know if you've ever heard of it, but there's this store. I think it's still there. It's called Candlestock. And it
Oh, that's
is
adorable.
the whole store is just candles, and they're all, people from the 60s, and because that was Woodstock was. And there's this giant candle, I forget the name of it. It's like Candle Mountain or whatever, and they burn another candle every day.
Yeah.
And the wax and the thing's probably 10 feet high now. You don't buy
No,
it stays in the store.
I love it. I love it because I we would go to Traverse City, Michigan when I was a kid, and there was a candle store. I don't remember the name of it, but one of the treats was we could go into the candle store. We had our $3 or $5 that we were
Right.
given, and we could pick out our own candle.
Yeah.
And they had lots of figure like mushrooms and Santa
Right. The ones that
Claus
you
and
peel back with layers. We used to do
oh
the
yeah,
same thing. My dad would give me a couple of bucks. He wouldn't want us to
cut
get a
and
big
carve.
candle. Yeah. And you would buy a candle, take it back in
Oh
your
yeah,
room or
those
whatever.
those cut and carve candles. I learned
Yeah.
how to do those in my 20s, and I went, oh God,
I
no.
know. I think I did that once at a party, like when I was in high school, and I'm like, I can't do this again.
I don't have that kind of patience.
Yeah.
I'm,
It's a real
you know,
skill, a real art.
what I've learned over the past 30 years is I love creativity. I love the artistic stuff. I love doing graphic design. I love all that. And yet I'm more of an entrepreneur than I am an artist. Um, I'm more of a teacher than I am an artist. And I've learned how to do these other things because, and I love doing it. I've designed all of our labels.
Right.
I set the brand together,
Well, I think as entrepreneurs, we're much more right brain than we are left brain. That's why a lot of us like ignore the financial side of things, and we don't want to do it because we like to create. I think it
yeah.
kind of fits together.
And so we as an entrepreneur, you get to create, whether you're creating a new product or you're creating a new process or you're creating a new market. um, it's although when I do numbers, I gotta have a hard stop on numbers to get
Yeah, it's
back to
hard.
creativity. Yeah.
You need to get away from it.
And
But that's why people ignore it. And it's
yeah.
not healthy for their business. So,
So, all these things kind of came together. I was studying herbalism, I was studying, and I realized that the folklore of the herbs ties directly into the medicinal purposes of the herbs.
it's a lot of
Like,
holistic type of
oh yeah, like
healthcare.
this
Yeah.
this herb is like a blood cleanser, and so then its propriety is of like exorcism and clearing. So I'm
Okay.
like, well, yeah,
It's all
that
kind of
makes
fit
sense.
together. So this is all Eastern medicine, Eastern medicinal, because
Not
Western
necessarily.
medicine, we don't really do things. I mean, look,
Well,
I don't want to
okay.
insult doctors. I'm not a doctor, but we seem to treat problems when they happen as opposed to,
Well, there's
taking
a
care of ourselves.
brilliance in Eastern medicine, and thank goodness for it because it reminded many of us that there's a lot of um, um, herbal or homegrown healthcare. I'm not going to say it's medicine because medicine is the medical field, the allopathic medical field is what it is, and thank God for it. We live longer, we're healthier people, and then there's this herbal folk medicine type thing, which is really a lot of self-care.
Okay.
And there's a ton of information there that got lost over time because we became a very scientific community. And I have no problems with that. I'm loving how that scientific and spiritual are now coming together now. That's it's really powerful. And so I was studying that Western Europe and American folk medicine, shall we call, and
Okay.
that midwifery and being an herbalist, um, which is it fascinated me. So between love and candles, studying herbs, studying my spiritual path. Boom, candle magic for me, my version of it was born. I made some, didn't have any money. That was easy in your 20s.
Right.
If you had money, it was like, woo, look at you.
Right.
I think in our 20s, we're not supposed to have money because we
No.
need to learn how to create it.
Yeah.
And so I went to a local supply place and they had wax. And then the gal said, so what are you going to color these with? You're going to color candles? I'm like, yeah, I figured I'd melt some crayons. And she's like, oh,
crayons.
God.
Right.
What kind of wick are you going to use? I'm like, I was going to use yarn. And she's like, oh, stop. and so she said, here's the wax, here's the color, here's the wick, and here's how you do it. And so I used tuna fish tins,
anything to shape the
whatever
the
to make
wax,
a candle, because there were candles in glass. Glass was not an option. I mean, right now everybody gets the candles in glass, and it's like
the little glasses, and you burn them down.
Yankee Candle really started the whole candles in glass kind of thing. Well, so my day is you had pillar candles, and you had to find your own damn candle holder.
Yeah.
So
or you just sat it on a little dish, and then
I would use, the little 1 liter pop bottles and cut the top off, and it was a one pour because you'd melted the pop bottle. And then in my basement, I had 2 lengths of PVC pipe.
Okay.
And I would like, okay,
you make your own molds is what you did.
Right. Yeah. I have this pot that fits 25 pounds.
Okay.
So that'll make 24 candles. So I had 2 lengths of PVC pipe and I cut it into 24 pieces.
And you just fill them up.
And then I would take aluminum foil on the bottom and put masking tape on it and try and string a wick, and it melted everywhere. The plan of making 24 candles, I think, became 10, and I had wax all over the kitchen carpet. But I learned and I figured it out. There was no books on it. You just, talk to another person, and it, one of my suppliers says, you know what wax stands for? So no, we are always experimenting.
Oh, there you go.
There's a science, there's an amazing science to making candles, and that's not what I studied. I studied my focus is what does this bring to you? What does this bring to your life? So really that's how the Blessed Herbal candle size was born.
Okay.
It's this sucker right here. There you go. This is basically PVC.
Is that glass now?
No, this is shrink wrapped.
Oh, got it. Okay, I can't tell from the video. Okay.
I know it's a little glare. Sorry about that. But that's how that size came to be, and I was the only one with that size. So over the years, we've had different companies that have copied us and made things that size, and it makes me go,
right.
But now, 30 years later, this has become this standard, and I really realized that about 5 years ago. I was like, oh, when some young folks are coming up to me and saying, oh, I grew up using your candles. I said, well, I'm a little hurt and and I love it at the same time.
Right.
So it's just been this crazy journey. So I made 18 styles of candles because I was making Christmas gifts for friends.
Okay.
And I had this person needed this person needed this person needed that. And except for one change, it's been the same 18 candles the entire time.
So that's basically your line, those 18 candles.
That's our core, just a few minor changes, but that's our core product line for almost 30 years now.
Oh, very good. Okay.
So same recipe, same everything.
So, okay. So then then they're just different colors or different things mean different things.
I grind up herbs that are really fine because early in the day, there was like big chunks of herbs on the top, and I learned that just creates a torch. So I grind. So if you go get a candle and you see little herbs on top and the tins and stuff, just know if you don't move those herbs out of the way, you're gonna get a torch in a can. Yeah. It looks beautiful. It's awesome.
Right, but it's dry brush basically.
Yeah. So and you know what flame is? Flame.
Yeah, fire.
It creates fire. It is fire. It'll put things on fire.
Right.
Big transformation.
Look, I think one of the most common causes of home fires are people that light candles and they put them too close to something, or they
Forget
leave the
about
room
'em.
and the drapes go up, things like
Yeah.
that. So it's a
Yeah.
common, if you look at insurance claims, it's common.
I had I used to have like these warnings, like don't put it by this, and then over time, and I talked to some lawyers, I changed it to please use caution and common sense.
Right. I mean, that's
this
really
is fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
she told me not to put it near the drapes, but she didn't say I couldn't put it underneath the table.
Yeah.
You're like, what? Yeah.
And it, as you saw, like the reflection shows that these are shrink wrapped because it's packaging.
Yeah.
And so
people light them on fire with the packaging on them.
Well, they like, well, it looked like it was part of it. I thought and it just says right on the remove all packaging. And
right.
So there's been pictures that have come my way. I'm like, oh, it says use caution and common sense and remove all packaging before lighting a candle. So that's just stuff you learn over time. But when I first made the candles, and it was so adorable. I had $100 worth of supplies, and I would go store to store with my little box of candles, and I would just say, I made these. Do you want to buy them? Yeah. But it took me, so I made the candles for the holiday gifts.
Okay.
And then people loved them and they asked for more. And I went, oh, gee, okay. But it took me like 6 months to get out of my own way to do the next batch.
Okay.
It was 6 months between that first batch and that second batch. And that second batch, I kind of went store to store. And I think I made that second batch because I had some supplies left and I really needed some money.
Okay.
And
yeah, because the first batch were gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I worked at that time at a software development firm. I was just a clerk, an office person. And they called me the office manager because I was the only one.
Right, but it was a way to pay the bills, right? You have the spiritual stuff, you have doing this candle thing, and you got to pay your bills.
Right. It was owned by a larger firm, CNC and machinist firm.
Okay.
And they were getting rid of their letterhead. They were changing from a gray color to a beige color, something like that. And there was stacks and stacks of this letterhead and second page back in the days when you needed letterhead.
Yeah, right. We don't do that.
And I said, can I have that?
Yeah.
Can I have it? So my first labels were gray because I got some free paper.
Right. Free paper. Exactly.
And when I ran out of all the second sheet, which is nothing on it, I printed on the other side of the letterhead. So there would be little bits of stuff on the inside of the label. And I just figured it out. I held the labels on with rubber bands.
Okay.
I had a bunch of rubber bands on my door handle and I'm like, well, how am I going to I'm just going to put it on with a rubber band and call it good. And that I did that for years. And I got to tell you, people looked at me so funny when I would say, can I have 10,000 rubber bands, please?
Well,
who
you buy
buys 10,000 rubber bands?
Nowadays you probably go on Amazon and get 50,000 rubber bands in a bag and they'll send it to you.
What are you doing with those rubber bands? I'm making a giant ball.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And the hard way. And I just figured it out. I was making them in my basement, and then I found a little storefront.
So at that point, so you found a retail storefront, a real storefront?
Oh yeah, I moved into this. I borrowed $3,000 from my dad.
Okay.
And I would think it was 25 to move into a commercial space. And it was half of it was I created a retail store, and the other half was where we made candles. And there was this weird falling down house attached to the back that was my office. And
because you said that was like early 90s, right? When you got into that stuff. So 92. I remember I heard about the internet for the first time, like around 92. I was at a youth conference in Israel, and there were kids from Europe. I've told the story before, but there were kids from Europe and Israel and the United States, and they were talking about this thing called the internet. And I said, what are you talking about the internet? Like, I've never heard of that. Well, it's this thing.
Yeah.
This thing, right? And I said, well, that couldn't be a thing. I mean, we live in the United States. We hear about things first. I mean, they don't. And I got back, and there's all these AOL discs on everybody's. But even having a website in those days was not something you could just do.
I love, so 75% of my employees are younger than my business, which again hurts my feelings just a little bit. But I do tell them, I said, listen, I've been doing this for so long that I was doing this before the internet. And they go, what? And I go,
right.
Yeah.
They don't think there was a before the internet.
I would order yellow pages from all over the country.
Right. Oh, so you could place wherever you would place the ads?
I would just go through them, and
Yeah.
they would send them to you for free.
Yeah, that's
They would
true.
even pay the postage.
Right.
So, because their point is they want to get this in as many hands. So I would just go in the yellow pages, look up gift stores and stuff like that.
That could carry your stuff.
hmm
Did you
And
go
I
to
would
like the
make,
gift shows? I remember there were gift shows in the major cities and stuff.
oh yeah, I didn't go to gift shows. I didn't have that
No.
kind of money. Oh no, no. I was, I, I, it's interesting when you start a business out of necessity.
Yeah.
As a scrapper,
Right.
I would have 3 jobs at the same time, and so as this was taken off, I still stayed in that scrapper mentality. So I had to do
It's
everything.
hard to break out from that,
It really is, and so
Yeah.
you sell everything for too little. You think you got to cut everybody a deal all the
Right.
time, and you're really afraid of being prosperous because what if it goes away? And there's just all that stuff, that prosperity
Right. You're
issues
very
behind all
frugal with
that.
everything that you're doing. It's
hmm
like there's a book called The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. It's a very good book. Mike McAllowitz. He's got some very
Oh,
good business books. You should read them. But
I'm totally doing
it's the
that.
concept of when there's a lot of roll on the toilet paper, you're very liberal with it. But when there's only a few sheets left, you're like,
Oh yeah,
okay. People were doing that during the pandemic. They're panicking. They got 2 rolls of toilet paper in their bathroom and they don't think they get any more.
right.
You get
I
real creative.
so actually, it's funny you say that. I did have a product that I made, a little packaged votive and some stuff together, and I was trying to figure out the packaging, and I just didn't like anything that I was coming up with. And then one day I was at the factory by myself, so I get some quiet and think, and I'm in the bathroom, and I realized there's no toilet paper on the roll. So I'm there contemplating my
Time to be
next move.
creative. Yeah,
And
exactly.
and so I looked at the toilet paper tube, and I looked at it and I went, "Hey, this is the right size." And
There you
so
go. Epiphany.
so it was an epiphany. And so
Yeah.
as a couple of my friends, they call me the toilet paper entrepreneur too, because I
Well, then you got
used
to read the
toilet paper
book.
tubes for
Yeah.
a long time. Well, I had really nice round tubes purchased. It wasn't quite as
No,
flimsy
of
as the
course,
toilet
but the
paper tube.
size was like, you're like, this is perfect. Yeah,
Yeah. And they thought that was flippin' hilarious.
that
And
is
so
hilarious.
it was a successful product for a while, and then I realized I was losing money on it because it was just way too there's way too many movements to create that product.
What, in terms of its size? Like it's better to
It's
make a
just like I gotta
larger.
do this and I gotta make this, and it's very precious and little, and I underpriced it, and that's that's what we do. When you're a scrapper, it was about 10 years ago. I had another epiphany where I said, I'm not surviving anymore. I'm thriving.
Yeah, you shouldn't be making candles in your basement anymore, in your back store, whatever.
In your head,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
should have other
I'm
people
in.
doing it.
Yeah, and so I joined right around that time. I met some people in the entrepreneur organization, EO,
Sure, there's a big
and they
EO
have,
chapter over here.
yeah, and they have an accelerator program, and they invited me into the accelerator program, and I was like tripping over myself for this. The accelerator program is not expensive if you think about it, but I was like, where am I going to get this money?
Right.
And I did it anyway, and then that brought me. I met people who were then in the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, and
Yeah.
then they introduced me to that. So it was like 5 years of entrepreneur school between EO accelerated program and the Goldman Sachs program and all the books that I read, and then I just had to stop because I just need to apply what I'm learning.
Yeah. Well, now you're moving your business up to a real business. You're not doing
Yeah.
other things, right? And you have people working for you
Yeah.
and distribution and stuff.
I'm a 30-year overnight success.
Yeah, everybody says that to me. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. Yeah, everyone says that. So,
Well, isn't that kind of what it is?
Yeah.
One of my I call her one of my nieces, just one of the young gals who's in my life, and her significant other went to business school, and his dream is to be an entrepreneur, and I'm like, oh, well, okay.
yeah.
I don't know many people actually started out to do that, but sure. And so he's like, I just got to figure out what business I'm going to do. And so I
Right.
sat him down and I said, listen, it's about what you want to do 24 hours a day for 10 years
Right.
that you
Yeah.
want to struggle with. You're willing to bet the entire farm on that you're willing to go hungry to support.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, that's not how I'm going to do it. And I go, oh, okay. So,
I mean, you got to be
young
passionate
men,
about it because it'll be
you
hard
know,
on the good days.
right. A young 20-some-year-old man who really doesn't, you're when you're 20s, your ego is so big.
Yeah.
It's
And you
beautifully
know
big.
so little.
Yeah.
It's
But you
ironic.
think you know so
That's
much.
the ironic part of life.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. So, but it really clarified for me what I was willing to sacrifice over the years. I went years without paying myself. Um, and again, I'm just going back to that scrapper mentality of like, well, thank God I had that scrapper mentality. I sure didn't know what I was doing. I was 24 years old, making money to go to college, and instead I started a business.
Yeah, I mean, bootstrapping has a lot to be desired. I mean, you have an idea, you're driven by passion, you're spiritual about it, you love what you do, and you figure a way to get it done. But I think that if you had more resources and you had a ton of money, let's say, to open up a factory and to hire employees and to hire a marketing team, whatever, you probably wouldn't be as creative because you wouldn't be forced to figure all these things out,
1,000%.
Yeah.
So I was in business for going on 7 years. I had that first 7 years in business, I like doubled. I got to $1 million in revenue really fast, really fast. Unfortunately, I
Yeah,
wasn't
you were
priced
still
right.
working? You still had side jobs or no? At that point you were
No, at that point I was this, and I there was this that last 2 years was so crazy, the increase in business.
Yeah.
I thought I would go to a temp agency and hire temp people, but I didn't know how to run a team, and
That's
it was a
another
bunch.
skill. It's a different level of
Oh my
skill,
gosh. You
running a
know,
company.
one of your biggest growth factors is your team.
Yeah.
You can, you can have some lame little product or a unnecessary service. Um, but if you have a great team, that team is going to take that. It's not, if you have a great product, it's even better.
That helps. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but between marketing, don't short your marketing and don't short your team.
Yeah.
So you're either going to hire to train or you're going to hire experts.
Yeah.
So I was hiring to train, but I wasn't trained. And I just
Yeah, it's very hard to determine who are the right people when
and
you
I had
don't have the training.
I had a pretty big
Make a lot of
ego.
mistakes.
I was at that point like 27, 28, maybe just hitting into my 30s, but I also had a young child at home.
Okay.
My current husband that I met after I'd started Coventry, he's an IT guy, so he has always built my websites.
Oh, that's good.
But
Yeah.
back in the day, I could build a website overnight.
Right. You learned because you learned that stuff.
You learn.
Yeah.
It's like I'm doing HTML coding.
I know. Well, so that's the thing. Like now it's even easier. You don't need to know any kind of coding.
No, I don't, it's even easier because I hire someone.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm just saying, if you were just like getting started, you had no money, you want to set up a website, you could do that now without any, ultimately you can't get a really robust,
Squarespace
without the right kind of support.
So, I just threw people at this process. I didn't improve my process. I just thought I needed more people.
Yeah.
So I hired all of these temp help people, but I didn't know how to create a team. So here's people who float from job to job,
right,
who are not engaged.
Yeah, they don't buy into your vision or whatever it is, right?
No. And so the people who were there, who had bought into my business, now they're disillusioned because I have all these temp help people.
Right.
And it was just a mess.
Yeah.
It was a dumpster fire at that point. And at the same time, because I was growing like this, I got a big line of credit. And I went through that line of credit.
I know, that's not good, right?
No, I went through that line of credit like that.
Yeah.
And really within 18 months, they moved it from a line of credit to a loan because I just wasn't
closed down the line. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't making enough payments.
Now you were dealing with people, you were dealing with stores all over the country at this point. You're shipping all over the place.
Yep. Yeah. I went right after I started Coventry. My husband at the time is a machinist, and there was no work in Detroit, and the only place it was hiring was Seattle,
okay,
Washington State. So we borrowed money, scraped money together to go to Seattle because he had some job interviews. And another friend of ours, he was going to move to Seattle because he had some job interviews too. So we all like pooled our resources. And in the meantime, I made a bunch of candles. I made about 400 candles. And this was when you could fly and you could have whatever kind of luggage you wanted.
Exactly. It wasn't like, oh, what do you have? Oh, are those marijuana candles?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not,
Can you imagine a box of 100 of these going through security right now?
Yeah.
You'd be like, those sticks of dynamite? What's
right.
going on?
Exactly. You can turn those into a bomb, I think.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I took 4 boxes of candles. Oh, my ex-husband was so mad at me that I spent some of the money on doing this. Well, while he was going to the plan was while he was going to job interviews, I was going to go store to store with these candles.
Right.
This is an opportunity.
Right. Seattle's like the perfect market for this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did my research. I ordered my yellow pages. I made appointments.
Yeah.
And we touched down in Seattle, and the headlines read that Boeing just laid off 30,000 people.
When you landed?
When we landed.
Was that where he was interviewing?
Well, among other things, he had like 6 interviews.
But it obviously would have a huge ripple effect because now there's a flood to the marketplace. Yeah.
All of his interviews were canceled.
Oh boy. Yeah. So there you go.
So we just went store
so he could wheel your candles around for you now.
Mm-hmm. And now this candle idea is a great idea. And we went store to store, and I sold every candle I brought. I made all of the cost of our trip back plus.
Nice.
And when we got home, there was like 6 messages on my answering machine of people who were vacationing in Seattle at the same time, who had stores in other parts of the country.
They saw your stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, saw my stuff. That was that pivotal moment. That's that tipping point moment. There's several tipping points in businesses, but that's one of those moments where it's like, oh, right place, right time.
Right.
And there's a level of intuition that entrepreneurs have that is often discounted.
Yeah, I think you have more intuition than you probably gave yourself credit for, because it wasn't just like, well, he's going to Sheboygan, so I'm going to try and sell some candles. You recognize that there was an opportunity in that marketplace. You could have brought 50 candles. You didn't. You brought 400. So
yeah. And exactly. I'm like, I need more candles. And I didn't even know how many stores were in Seattle, but I brought them all.
Right. It wasn't like you go on Google and you do a search, you come up with all the stores.
Yeah. And my estimation is if I can sell 10 candles to every store. No, it was like, so I'm going to try a thing. I'm going to do a thing.
Right. It wasn't the scientific thing that you did. Yeah.
No. And well, I have a theory that manifesting, magic, that spiritual pursuit is the same energy as entrepreneurism.
I would agree. Like I said, it's right brain. It's not left brain. It's creative, spiritual, a lot of it's emotion. You do a lot. And that's one of the mistakes, like the trouble people get into also, is that sometimes they do things emotionally. I mean, that's how we are, right? You want to feel good about what you're doing.
And thank God they do, because that's why they buy my candles.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's your whole marketplace. No, it's true.
And, pre-pandemic, like literally months before the pandemic started, it was November. And our biggest selling season is from, say, mid-August through Thanksgiving. That's when we sell the most of our products. It used to be 50% of my business, but I've spread it out a little bit. But that right after Thanksgiving, everyone talks about the Thanksgiving rush. Wholesale, I'm done. People
not a lot for Christmas, not a lot.
Stores already have everything they need in the store.
Oh, they're ahead of, I got it. Okay.
Yeah. So now they're just filling in the gaps. Well, we had a good amount of inventory in November. We had great sales, and December, we usually bring our production way down because we just don't sell a lot in December. And I said, no, we're going to ramp it up.
Well, you're also now you're selling direct. I mean, you're online. So right?
I have an interesting structure of how I do things so people can specialize in what they're good in. But December, I'm like, nope, I want to double our inventory. We got to double our inventory, and I want to double our raw materials. So instead of worrying about holding on to this money for ramping up in, say, March or whatever, I said, I want to make it all. We got to make it all. So we had so much product that we were like squirreling it away in corners and creating maps of where all the product was. And I had so much raw material. The concern was we just didn't have space to actually make product because I had so much raw material.
Now, why did you do that?
I just knew I had to.
You just had a feeling about it?
You know what? We're going to grow. We're going to boom. I want to be prepared for it. And then the pandemic hit.
So this was like December of 19.
Yeah, December of 19.
Right.
Also, 19 was a major traumatic year for me. And so we had just crawled back from I had my office manager embezzled from me. She stole
Ugh.
$150,000. She
Oh
emptied
my
all of our accounts.
God.
And I discovered that on July 1st.
That's
And
right
I
when I
said,
broke up my law firm, actually.
ah,
July 4th weekend.
yeah. And I went away, and I had all this printouts from the bank and
Did you get
QuickBooks.
any of that money back? Where she
I
get
got a little
charged with
bit of it
anything?
back.
She
I
get
have a little bit,
charged with
yes.
theft?
And since the pandemic, her pretrial keeps getting moved.
Right.
But here's the thing: is I made the money back.
Okay.
Lisa Minetti is my business coach,
Mm-hmm.
and at that time we were in a big focus of a push to do some things, and I called her up and I said, I got a problem. And we sat down, and through the tears and the frustration and the raging, she helped me create a list of the things I could do to bring my business back. She's like, well, what do you need? What do you need? And I said, I need, I need to manifest $400,000 to recover from this loss, and and be able to continue. So she was okay. When do you want to manifest it by? And I said August 31st, and I
Yeah.
did.
Okay, great.
I did. So it was like that. I'm gonna see entrepreneur and magic right at the same time.
Well, you're resilient too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I'm
could
not getting
tell
rid of the
from your
scrapper.
personality. Yeah. You're not going to, it's not even like you didn't even think for a second that this was going to set you back. It was just a question of how do you get to where you need to go?
Oh yeah.
That's a
I,
different mentality than a lot of people get.
when you've been doing this for so long, I've been at the point where again I couldn't pay myself for years, and this was with me being a mom with a really young kid, and I was
Right.
worried about food for my kid. My husband has a job, and he's taking care of all the household bills, and you know half of the income for more than 2 years is a big deal.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think at
and
that point you knew you're not going back to that.
well,
I mean, that
there's
wasn't going to happen. So you're
yeah.
just going to deal with it. And people, it's funny. Life doesn't happen like in a straight line.
Oh
Like
no.
we do financial planning or whatever. It's all going to happen this way. It never does. And it's not just mistakes we make and things. It's like people that come and take things from you and stuff like that.
Back in the day when I wasn't paying myself, and I was over $300,000 in debt, no way to pay it back. I was out of wax and I was out of wick. Those are two basic things you need to have a candle.
You
You
think,
can't have a candle without those two things.
right?
And so I just got resilient and negotiated and figured some stuff out. And
Yeah.
I worked 80 hours a week, because what happened was when all this was coming down, and just a lot of stuff happens, and you lose one customer, one big customer, and you're like, oh, I'm just, it all started because of a huge QVC deal that went south. So here
Yeah.
I
They'll kill
am.
you, right? Because,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. They returned $14,000 worth of candles to me. I didn't read the fine print, but I'm like, this is QVC. I'm so excited.
Right.
So here I am sitting on all these candles, and not a penny in the bank, and trying to figure this stuff out. And I sat on my couch with my sister at my
Your
house.
partner,
My
sister.
partner, yeah, my business partner and sister. The lights were low, the booze was in hand, the tears were flowing, and I went, I'm not going to struggle anymore. She goes, okay, let's not struggle. And we said, well, what are we going to do if we don't do this? What are we going to do? And we just talked this all out. And I said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to do this. I
Yeah.
want to work with you. I want to do this. So
You weren't partners at that point?
we were partners
Oh,
at
you
that
were.
point. We
Okay.
were. So we just talked about, okay, if we let Coventry go, if we close the doors, I would still absorb all the debt personally, but if we close the doors, what would happen? And what would we do? So let's say we got rid of all of it. I declared bankruptcy, and we just started over again. What would I go get a job doing? And I said, I think I would do this again. I would do this. I would start it again with what I know now. And we decided to just act as if.
Not shut it down, not bankrupt
Not shut it
it.
down. Let's just start over again
Just
with
rebuild it.
everything we have.
Right.
And so what I did is I didn't need all the equipment that I had because sales had tanked. So I took it out of the building, and I put it in somebody else's garage just in case they came and locked me out.
Yeah. Good thinking.
And so I started my plan B, and but we just kept going. And a couple of my suppliers said, I just called them and I said, I'm really messed up. This is not, this is, I owe you money, and here's how I want to work. Here's how I'm going to pay you off without you working with me on anything. This is what I can do to pay you off. And if you send me a little bit more wax, I can pay you off faster. And because
Most people will work with you when you're
yeah,
honest like that.
yeah, because I came up with a plan, they said, absolutely. So then fast forward to 2019, when I have to call all of my creditors and all of my suppliers that she hadn't been paying for months.
But you thought she was.
Yeah, she'd been putting it in her pocket. And I said, hey, listen, this is what happened. It is 100% my fault for not paying attention. I own it. And here's my plan to pay you off. And
these are the same people that had worked with you before?
No, over time they became different.
Okay.
One or two of them were the same, but okay. But most of them were newer. But I just used the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, Wells Fargo. You call Wells Fargo, they do not care who you are. I had a lease on a printer with Wells Fargo, and they just don't care. And I just said, here's what I can do. And they said, well, I need you to catch up 1 month earlier than your plan. And I said, well, okay. So then we changed the structure. But from July 1st to August 31st, I created $400,000.
In terms of either cost reductions or sales.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what. So I just kept a little list, and every week the whole team, everybody, every candle maker, every shipper, every person, everybody, we got together in this whole team, and we cheered every week to do this. And so then now I'm in good financial standing, and now I'm like, well, here, I don't want to be behind in all this stuff again. So if I don't ship a candle to a wholesale customer who buys it, they don't have an opportunity to sell it. So then the reorder is going to be even further behind. So this is our philosophy. It's like they can't sell what they don't have. So if they're ordering from us, let's get it to them as fast as possible. And so we moved to this place. So end of 19, I'm like, I just want to be really deep in our product so we can make better choices.
So that's what made you do that.
And so it was like, I'm like, and my sister partner was saying, I don't know, can we afford this? And I said, I think we have to afford it. We have to afford it. And I want to be able to be in a position to where I can buy more supplies at one time. Right. Or I can leverage things. And I was, it was
basically supply chain logistics. I mean, you're like,
And I said, I just have a feeling we're going to have an issue with this. I can't get rid of this feeling that we just need to do this. And then March 12th, I had to send everybody home. Was it March 12th, something like that?
Yes, yeah. It's actually the 11th because somebody I spoke to yesterday, that was their anniversary, and they remembered they got shut down. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I sent everyone home a week before because I was watching the news and I was really worried about the health of my employees. And I said, well, I sent them home like a half a week early. I gave them a week's pay cash, just to make sure that they're going to be okay.
Because at that point we didn't know anything. There was no PPP or none of that. No. We didn't know what was going to happen.
I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And then they shut it. They said 2 weeks. And they said 3 weeks. And then now it's almost a year later.
Still home. I know. Too.
But I had all that inventory, and I was allowed the rules in Michigan where you're allowed one person in the building to maintain the base business.
Right.
And
but beyond extreme temperature, you didn't have anything that spoils, like you weren't in the meat business or whatever.
I wasn't a restaurant.
Right. So your candles, your wax, your wicks, all that stuff is going to maintain itself for the most part.
Yeah.
In order to to stay in business. But I think that it's a very good lesson for people that are listening because I'm a big vibrational energy, law of attraction, person. And I'm doing some more reading about it. I have the same problem. I went through the pandemic for 4 months. I didn't have a stitch of business because every one of my clients are small business owners like you, and they send all their employees home. So they're closed. So that's why I did all this podcasting and stuff. But there is no question that the life is about, mindset and energy. And when you put bad things out in the world, bad things come back to you, because there's no opposite of attraction.
No.
Like, you don't say, I don't want this, and it distracts from you. I don't know what the word, I don't think there is a word. What you do is you say, I don't want that. And then it comes to you. So as opposed to, you had this attitude and this, spiritual belief that not only is this going to be good, but it's going to be great. And you were putting that out to the world, and your employees are feeding off of it. And, and the opposite happens too, obviously, right? There's people that do negative stuff. And I think that, look, if you listen to my first 2 episodes, there's a guy named Jack Killian, who I think might've been a fortuitous way, or what's the word? Kind of a wide circle of how I got to Lisa. But anyway, in the episode, it's 2 parts. Jack is in his 70s or 80s now, and he was younger, came out of McKinsey. He was a business guy, but pretty creative. And his dad died suddenly. Oh. He goes into work. There's like $23 in the bank. They had to make payroll in a week and a half. They owed all kinds of bills and $2 million of debt. And he basically got on the phone and called their biggest suppliers and said, listen, I don't know what I can pay you, but I'm going to send you money every week. And then if you keep supplying us, we'll be able to stay in business. And he went to like his 5 best customers, said, listen, we can't fill your orders, but if you'll prepay the orders now, we can stay in business and we'll fill them on time. And he was able to, and the people did it.
Yeah.
And they were big companies in those days, but yeah, you got to do it. And there's always a way.
Yeah, there's always a way.
Always a way.
In 2019, when I discovered that I was being stolen from, my intuition had been going off for months. There's something wrong. There's
like something was just off.
Something's wrong. So our QuickBooks broke, and she kept rebuilding the database.
Right.
And that broke in November of 18. And I built it. I was there, but then something is not right in the formulas, blah, blah, blah. So I had to redo it. And it was Lisa who said, enough. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I go,
because you never want to believe it. It's somebody you trust.
I couldn't imagine this. I can't imagine her doing this to us, but
right.
You're
Why
right,
would she
something
do
is
that?
wrong.
Right.
And it all came down. And I was ignoring my intuition. So when towards the end of 19, and I have this big intuitive hit, and I just can't shake it, I'm like, we're going to do it, because I ignored it before and it cost us a lot. But yet we grew tremendously from it. And so we were able to maintain our customers through end of May. People were still ordering. Some stores were just immediately went online, and they were still getting business and running it out of their homes. And we were able to continue to do that. And then the challenge after that was bringing people back.
Yeah.
Once things opened back up and stores trying to get customers back through the PUA money was our employees for the PUA money was just hard, and law of attraction. So what I did is I said, well, I can't. I'm watching how all of my employees are living much better and easier and lives. They have more food security at $15 an hour, at that $600 a week. I said, I can't bring them back without it being at least this much.
Right. Because they might as well stay on unemployment.
Well, yeah, even when it run out, like, okay, it's running out so everybody can come back. But I said, I need you. And so here's what I'm going to do. And then I changed my structure, my pay structure. Because before, my entry level in the Detroit area was like $11, maybe $12 an hour. And it still can flirt there, like if you're going to Subway or something like that.
What's minimum? 11 something?
No, it's like 9.
Oh, by you it's 9. I think it's 11 here.
Yeah, it's really it's wrong.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be. I think it's getting to 10. You know what? I stopped tracking it because I know I just
you're above it. Yeah, exactly.
So I went to 15, and then Amazon moved in and started everybody at 15. It wasn't a competition for my employees anymore, just because at law of attraction, how can I promote prosperity? Empowered belief is my contribution to the world. Whatever you believe, I want to help you empower it. How can I live in that and live in that empowered belief if I'm not believing that everyone who works for me is worthy of prosperity? That's
a good attitude.
And so I said, okay, our prices are going to go up, and I'm just finishing that cost increase. I did a lot of really cool stuff to become more efficient. And then because I did that, and orders kept coming in. In September, I had to move to a building double the size. Law of
Nice.
attraction. That's
Yeah,
magic.
exactly.
Law of attraction is magic.
Right. But it's not hocus pocus magic. It's real rules of the universe.
Yeah.
I mean, that, because if you think about it, if you're always a negative person and you're always down, you're going to attract people like that. You walk into a bar, you walk into a party, somebody is, outgoing and they have this personality that just attracts other people. You want to talk to that person. It's just the fact of life. I mean, that's the way, and people discount it too much. I think that, oh, you don't know, yeah, I do.
I was just having a great conversation with a dear friend of mine who just got divorced. And she was the wife, the mom who was flexible in her employment to take care of the kids. And the husband did the trajectory of life. They got divorced and it was not a great deal for her. And she goes, why am I, and she's a law of attraction and all this stuff. And she called me the other day and she goes, why am I struggling while I'm watching him live his best life? And we talked about that for a little bit. And I said, number one, he's not your business anymore. You're taking all this energy.
Right. Oh, this is after they're divorced.
This is after they're divorced.
Yeah,
you're
she
taking
shouldn't
all
be
this
focusing
energy
on him.
and you're focusing it on frustration that he's doing better than you. But what if you took all that energy and instead of being mad about him, focus it on you?
Right.
And your life. And so we talked about how her life is better. And there's a phrase that I talk about all the time. You can get anything you want, everything you want, but all you have to do is give up everything you have.
Okay, that makes sense. Don't be so attached to what you have and don't want.
Yeah.
I'm attached to what you do want. Yeah.
And then I said, now let's take all of the financial trappings out. Who's happier right now? Who's more content? Who is living a life full of self-care and joy? And she's like, oh, yeah. I said, so would you rather have the money or would you rather have the peace and ease in your life?
Yeah. Well, that's why we need like mindset coaches and stuff, because we can't see out past our front tip of our nose for things.
Yeah. And so that's really, once you get to that place of peace and ease and you're like, hey, I don't want to work 80 hours a week because I want to plant a vegetable garden. Well, you say you're going to plant that vegetable garden and you're going to live that peace and ease life and you're going to create this abundance. I mean, you're growing things in your life. You're going to create abundance. Next thing you know, you putting a boundary on not working 80 hours a week and your boss goes, well, you're really good, so I'm going to give you a raise. Or you say, I'm going to set a boundary on not working 80 hours a week. And I'm going to say, this is not a healthy place. And you open yourself up to the next place. I mean, I watch it all the time.
Yeah, of course, because you got blinders on. You're trapped in your own reality. Mm-hmm. So now I want to talk about two things. One is all the the witchcraft and the magic and the stuff. Like, where did that come along and how did you get into that? I don't think you were you in your 20s?
I was in my 20s and I found some, do you remember when Walden Books was the place to go?
Yeah. Yeah. They don't publish any. Are they owned by some bigger company or something?
Yeah, they got bought out by, I think, Barnes and Noble, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But bookstores weren't huge back in the day. They were like, they're just a standard
mom
storefront.
And pop. Yeah, they're local bookstores, stuff. Right.
And I went in there and I found one book on metaphysics.
Okay.
And I think there was one book on runes, like the Norse language runes. And I bought them.
RUNES, runes.
Yeah, RUNES. Right. Not ruins, but runes.
Right, runes, yeah.
And I bought it and I just clicked. I was like, oh, this is it for me. So then I went on the hunt and I found some indie bookstores who had more stuff on metaphysics and more stuff on witchcraft and things like that. And this is when some of the modern witchcraft movements were really getting going. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of key authors. And so I just kept searching and searching. And then I found it more and more. And then I found some people and I just kept learning and experimenting.
With the things you were learning.
With the things I was learning. We can get book smart all day long.
Right, but that's not fun.
But then we get locked in.
Yeah.
To the book says this, I have to do it just like the book says. So I've always taken it as inspiration and a jumping off point.
Yeah.
We are the deciders of what's magical.
Well, some human wrote the book. It's not like, it's
Exactly.
within, oh, this is the rules. I mean, it didn't come, from God.
Exactly. Somebody decided that patchouli is good for love.
Okay. What's patchouli?
But then somebody else decided it's an herb that
Okay.
comes from I think India is where it's from.
Okay.
Somebody saw a palm tree that had a gash, and it was red sap was coming out of it, and it was very aromatic. So they decided it was dragon's blood. And
Okay.
they decided that it was powerful. It increases your power and your strength and your will. Somebody decided these things. So, and when I would study this group from, say, Western Europe, who said chamomile is chamomile, we all know, like chamomile tea is
Yeah, everybody.
peaceful,
Yeah,
it's
sure.
loving, it
It
calms you
calms you,
down.
it's soothing. Yeah.
But from American folk magic, which is created with African traditional religions, um, uh, different folk magic, hearth people, pagan people, created the American tradition. Well, that tradition says chamomile is good for money and luck. Those two things are pretty opposite, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This luck seems much more active than this peaceful. We're going to go to sleep now. And so I was looking at this and I'm like, well, let's test. Well, both are true.
So they're just different beliefs and different applications of the same thing.
And one of the reasons I think both are true is because chamomile, if you look at it and you relax your preconceived notions of what is possible, then anything is possible. And that's where luck
Makes
comes
sense.
in.
You're right.
So I was just looking at this, like going, oh, okay, somebody was the decider and they picked up a piece of it.
Right.
And so I challenge people all the time, decide for you what this means.
Yeah, I agree with you, because luck is not something that just happens to people. Oh, he's lucky. No, he makes his own luck. It's because of his mindset and how he looks at life and the things that he focuses on and the energy that he puts out to the world. That's what luck is. I mean, you can,
Right.
You're not going to win the lottery based on that.
If you believe only success is in front of you and you do the work, you will be successful.
Right. That's true. That's 100% true.
It's your intent and your belief is the first thing. And so when you send that energy out into the world, it goes through your spheres of influence. So right now, you and I, our spheres of influence are right here. We're a little Venn diagram of our energy. And if I say to you, I'm looking for, I'm manifesting that I want to buy a circus tent. It's pretty random.
Yeah. Okay. That's definitely random.
And I say, yeah, I don't know where that came from. So I want a circus tent.
Okay.
And I say, okay, and I light my candles and I do my work and I bring in herbs and all kinds of other things and do the spiritual work that I do about that circus tent. And right now I mentioned circus tent. And you're like, oh my God, my buddy, he's got a circus tent.
This happens all the time, by the way.
Yeah. But that's the spheres of influence.
Right. So well, people don't realize they put energy out whether they like it or not.
Yeah. So when you do your spell and your magic or your law of attraction work, which is exactly the same thing, what you're doing is it goes through your spheres of influence. So what you're asking for really needs to be within the realm of your possibilities.
Okay. Makes sense.
That's why.
Right. You can't ask for ridiculous things that just you're not even connected with.
Well, that's why winning the lotto, why can't you just do a spell and win the lotto? Because it's not within your spheres of influence. It's not within your realm of possibility. Number one, did you buy a ticket? But
even
everybody,
that's not enough. Yeah.
Even that's not enough. It's like super, super random. And I don't actually buy lotto tickets anymore. I'd rather use my luck.
My wife makes me buy a lotto tickets. I'm like, all right, well, why don't we go burn a $20 bill in the backyard? And she's like, oh, there's a chance. I go, only a little bit. It's only a little bit higher chance by not buying a ticket versus not buying a ticket.
Right. Well, here's my thing is I have generated more revenue than I
from that
won.
money that you would have spent. Right.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
So that's within, I would rather take this with what's within my realm of possibilities and continue to multiply it, it's
better use
positive
of your money.
inertia into something greater. I can't influence, and I have no inertia in that over there. And it's fun to think about sometimes, and you dream,
Yeah,
if I
that's
won the
right. Exactly.
lotto.
That's fun for 20 minutes till they announce the numbers. But
Even a couple of weeks ago, was it huge? Wasn't it like
yeah, it was
18
like
billion dollars
something
or
like
something?
that. Right.
Um,
It was almost a billion. Yeah.
$2 trillion.
Right. Exactly.
And and uh I was having a fun conversation with my sisters, and they're like, what would you do? What would you do? And I'm like, I know what I would do. I would X, Y, and Z, which were things that were in the realm of possibility for me. And I kept thinking about that. And I said to my husband, I would do these three things first if we won the lotto. So why don't we just do them?
Okay. You didn't need $1 billion to do it.
I don't need permission.
Okay.
Let's move forward with doing that. And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. So then we started really thinking about it. I'm like, we can totally do this. We can 100% do these three things, which could lead to the next three things that I would do if I had won the lotto. Why not? Why not?
Right. Right.
So that's magic. That right there is magic. Now, sometimes it takes a little bit to get into the mindset to make it happen. And those are the tools of magic. So, a very good friend of mine, Orion Foxwood, says the reason you use tools is the tools will continue to work even when you're not. When you're not in the
Makes
mindset,
sense. Sure.
your tool will raise your vibration. That's why candles. That's why crystals. That's why
Sure.
chants and charms and um, different physical ritual things, because that helps you get out of this space where it's really hard. I'm lonely and feeling unlovable.
Right.
And then you start to pull the things. You light your
Yeah.
candle,
Because you
you do
can't
your
just say,
ritual.
oh, I'm going to feel better. Like
Yeah.
that's not enough.
So the
People don't
tools are
believe it.
working for you. They're raising your vibration. They're changing your energy to get you into the place where you can do the work.
So
And
did you become like in witchcraft? Are you like certified, or you just say you're a witch? I mean, is there a
there are
process, an
many.
international board of witches and witchcraft, the Hogwarts School of whatever? I
Yeah,
don't know.
wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah,
But no,
that's why I love those books.
I know.
There was this
No.
magical world that we didn't know about, you know?
Yeah, I want to be part of it.
Yeah. So there's no
So
way to become a certified something or other.
yeah, there is in
Okay.
different uh religions within witchcraft, Wicca, and there's different, like the Alexandrian path, and um all the Gardnerian path, all these things, and those are created. Those and there's I could go into the history, which I won't. Those are people who got together and decided this is the format, and
Okay.
those are created. So my philosophy in life is a witch is a title. It's a descriptive term of how we embrace life. Like, I'm a
Okay.
friend.
Right.
I'm a friend. I'm a
Well,
teacher. I'm
it's a
a
spiritual
neighbor.
choice, basically, in your
Mhm.
case, how you live and the
Yeah.
choices you make. Yeah.
Um, and yes, there are training programs, like for, like, say if you're going to shamanism or
Okay.
different things like that. There's training programs, but they're very personal, and they're usually created by people who are experiencing magic and are going to show you a way to get there. Um, there's things like traditional religions that are very magic based. A lot of them, like African traditional religions, like voodoo and Santeria and things like that. That has a really rich living history that never ended. And so its cosmology and its folklore has remained true its entire time, since whatever the dawn of time, since it was created eons, you know, not generations, but centuries, and what's
Some
the
of
other
that
word,
stuff you
millennial
think of,
ago.
you associate with like bad witchcraft, like
Yeah.
doing
Well,
bad things to people you don't like,
okay.
as
Well,
opposed to spirituality and all the stuff that you do that's like,
yeah,
you know,
it's beautiful. Those African traditional religions are beautiful. They are so filled with a deep, deep connection to the divine. And at its core, it's about building community and staying connected to God. That is what it is at its core. And let me tell you how it changed, how its view changed. So we go back a
media,
little bit,
news, right?
Hollywood.
Yeah, right.
You
That's what I
know,
was going to
it's
say. It's a shame that we're
yeah.
misinformed.
But if you go back further and you go to missionaries,
Right.
The missionaries would go into Africa, and and this was before slave trade. They would go into Africa and they would say, "You're wrong, I'm right, and I'm going to bring some thing that you desperately need, but
Right.
I'm only going to give it to you if you come to church.
Right.
We're going to clean the water, we're going to do this, we're going to that, but you have to follow the path of this monotheistic path of the Christian God to do that." And so, but there's some beautiful things about Christianity that really keystone into that original religion. So now we've got some conversion going on, and then the slave trade starts. The atrocities of slave trade start, and what happens is that now anything that is associated with people from Africa, with a dark skin, with black folks, is now evil, because we
Got
need
it.
to systematically destroy their identity. We need to enslave a people. We need to systematically destroy what they held to be true and what they held in a place of power. So that is how anything in the African traditional religions became evil. Now, the same thing happened with the midwives and the witches of old.
Right.
When the scientific mind became the norm, and we've moved from a matriarchal to a patriarchal society, women still retained this power of being a center of community, of bringing health and wellness. And so if your midwife was like, we're not going to do that because this guy wants to do this, and she goes, well, he wants to take her power away.
Right. Well, that's
And,
the history of,
right.
you know,
The witch
any
trials
religion,
and
right?
stuff.
Isn't that all about suppression of women? I mean, that's how any
So
orthodoxy religion really has advanced in the modern world.
So look at these older religions, and if they're considered evil, what was the suppression that was created to make it evil?
Right. It wasn't really evil. They changed the
No,
perception on purpose to try and
exactly.
get rid of it.
And that always fascinated me too. So my fascination in life is why people do what they do. And so that drives what created this belief in you, and how does this belief drive the bus? And that's why my contribution to the world is empowered beliefs. Let's empower your positive beliefs.
So,
And
so if
that
somebody wants to like learn more about you and connect with you, I think you have a Facebook group, right?
I do. I have Coventry Creations is on Facebook and all the social media platforms. You can find
Right.
us
Are you
there.
okay on time? Because I want to talk a little bit about Coventry and the candle line and
Okay.
things that people can get if you're okay on time.
I am totally okay on
Okay.
time. Our Facebook group is Witches Union Spellcaster Club, and
Okay.
it's
And
just
you send me
about,
the link, so we'll put that in the show
yeah,
notes as well.
yeah, and it's fun. The point of it is fun. Being a witch is fun.
Okay, so
I
let's.
mean, why not?
Yeah, well, heck, that sounds fun to me. I would think your husband would be like, you're not worried about anything. I got Jacki. She's like my superpower. I'm good. So talk about Coventry and your candle line. So, what's available on the website, what kind of things are people buying, and so forth.
Um, the Coventry candles are all handmade.
Okay.
I looked at some of machinery, and it just did not fit with the energy of them. So they're all hand poured, and we look at all the environment and everything. So our main cornerstone line is the Blessed Herbal candles. Those are the tall, skinny ones,
Okay.
and they are still individually and collectively our best sellers. It's pretty amazing.
They have different fragrances
I have
or
18 different blends, so different
okay.
colors and fragrance combinations, different blessings on them. And the number one seller, drum roll, is money. Money draw is always our number one seller.
Right.
And in the past 4 years, our number two seller is spiritual cleansing.
Okay, that all makes sense.
In 2016, all of a sudden, I couldn't make enough clearing, cleansing, change candles every day. I'm making more. So that was an interesting shift, because it used to be money, love, happiness. Now it is money, spiritual cleansing, protection, and love.
Interesting.
Isn't that fascinating?
Right. Well,
It
it
just
kind of
really,
follows the social shifting and stuff, right?
absolutely. And I'm not going to get political. I'm just going to say the polarization and the threat that people on either side feel
Yeah.
is real.
Sure.
It's very palpable because both sides feel they're fighting for their lives.
Well, I think people look for, I mean, people want generally peace in their life. They want tranquility. They don't like all this stuff. Now you're working from home. You can't go in. You got to do this. You got to wear a mask. And I think that,
Hmm.
spiritually, people are looking for like calm. They want to,
Hmm.
that's why I guess candles are, kind of like my son's at college. They're all into candles.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a new
As long
source
as he
now.
doesn't burn his apartment down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, they're not allowed in dorms. That's for sure. That's why I created sprays. I have a line of they're called Wicked Good room sprays.
Okay.
And I have Easy Street, which is a money draw. I have Smudge Spray, which is like smudging, sage. I
Okay.
have uh oh, I just forgot it. Oh, I have like a road opener. That isn't a great all purpose. I need to open the road for whatever I want.
Okay.
That helps get you out of your own way. It's really
Like open to
powerful.
possibilities.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Ninja Power is a protection spray. So, and then so I have all those sprays. So if you're in a dorm and you can't light a candle, you have the spray to create that energy.
This is all on
Um,
the Coventry Creations
yeah.
website.
So my cornerstone line is the Blessed Herbal line, where I have Blessed Herbal candles, which are the tall skinnies. I have Blessed Herbal affirmations, which are really great, adorable little 2x4 size. I have power votives, which are votives. Right now, they're
Photos
generally
of the
sold
little
at.
glass jars, right?
No, I don't do any glass.
Okay. But they're
The
that
pow-
size. They're like,
yeah, they're votive size or
yeah.
small little dealy womps, and where you put them in the votive holder. I have Blessed Herbal oils, um, and so that whole line is my cornerstone. And so all of them are about intention work, empowerment work, and magical work. Then my next best-selling line is my Hoodoo line. This comes from American folk magic, which is with a heavy lean towards that traditional African spirituality that came through the atrocities of slave trade. And so that is a conjure line which it's like deep, and it's really traditional on how the apothecaries and the drugstores were the suppliers, the historic suppliers of magical and spiritual goods. So
Right.
it really leans to that. And then we have that has things like come to me and fast, not fast cash, but there's a money draw, there's a fiery wall of protection, scales of justice. So that really is that control,
Mm-hmm.
finding some control in a part of your life that is completely out of control. I make a line with Dorothy Morrison, who is a well-known witch author, Wiccan witch, everything. And so we make her Wicked Witch Mojo candles, and so we
Cool.
have that line, and that has things like Rich Bitch. Um, as a limited edition we have right now, and it has like Fast Cash and Tornado Alley, and just to clear everything out of your life.
Right.
Flying monkeys for
Oh,
protection.
yeah. You don't want flying monkeys.
Or you want your flying
You
monkeys
do?
and you want to direct them. Um,
Okay.
and we have our Witch's Brew line, and
Uh-huh.
that is 4 candles that are like real magical purpose, all purpose. They're nice big large candles, about yay tall,
Like pillar ones, bigger.
big pillars, altar candles that for long term use. I have my World Magic line, and that has a Sacred White Sage candle, a Sweetgrass candle, Lakshmi, and a Ganesh candle. So this is just magic from all over the world. Where we give people more information on that. So we're adding to the World Magic line this year, and we're doing lots of fun stuff with that. And
Cool.
in 2018, I brought out a line of chakra candles, chakra
Uh-huh.
magic,
Sure.
to use your natural innate energy and your different chakras. Sometimes they're out of sync,
Yeah.
they're out of whack, and so we call it doing a chakra shift, moving it from a place of a want or need into a place of empowerment. And we have a line of sprays with that one as well, so you can do a little spray when you can't light a candle. And the sprays are doing really well. They're really easy. You don't need a flame, you don't need a lighter, you don't
Right.
need a candle holder. You just spray around. So that's been fun.
Interesting. So we'll put the links in the show notes. Anybody wants to go to the website, they can order whatever they want. Now, I'm in New Jersey. Are there any stores off the top of your head that you sell to? in my area? Or no, you don't think so?
I do.
Not that I
have
get to those
several
stores right
stores.
now. Someday
I
they'll
have
let us go out again.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of them are doing curbside pickup or online, or they have limited hours. They'll let one person in at a
Right.
time. And most of the stores that are open, as I talk to them, because I check in with them, and they'll talk about, oh, we're doing X, Y, and Z, to keep everybody safe. I do have some stores in New Jersey, and if I was a super prepared person, I would have had a list.
Well, I didn't tell you. I didn't tell you
Yeah,
that ahead of time.
but
It just occurred to me.
we do have several stores in New Jersey and that whole area. Actually, the East Coast in general is if you took the country and you just so many are on the East Coast and the West Coast.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Population wise.
And I love it. I love it when people go to the stores and buy our products, because I love supporting that local business. They're our bread and butter. So Coventry Creations, the factory and the wholesale business, Coventry, we focus on the wholesale stores. We focus on helping others, again, create prosperity in their lives.
Right.
Then coventrycreations.com, all of those products get filled through our partner store, Candlewick Shop. So again, I shifted all that to our store so that becomes helps their income. So they focus on interacting with that retail customer with their expertise, and then the factory focuses on the wholesale customer and
Right. Well, you started the business really before the internet was a significant part of our lives, so you were dealing the traditional way, retail.
And I just don't like going to shows and sitting in a booth and waiting for people to grace me with their presence. I'm way too active for that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I like to go find people.
Yeah, you go out and see them. Well, Jacki, I appreciate you coming on and spending time with me and sharing all of the love and joy and spirituality you bring to the world. So
thank you.
I'm definitely going to order a couple of candles, but we're also going to get this out to people and get the all the links in the show notes so people can learn about what you do and how to interact with you, and hopefully improve the the vibrational energy in their life, I guess.
Absolutely.
Is the word. All right.
Well, Mitch, this has been just a pleasure. This has been so much fun, and I've really enjoyed all your questions and our interaction.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, Mitch. You